Welcome to Truth and Transcendence. You can find all our other episodes on truthandtranscendence.com. So today, I'm absolutely delighted to welcome special guest Richard Smith, who's here to talk about, there's so many things we can talk about. This is a very interesting man, but we're going to start off talking about this notion of everything is relevant. And I was just saying to Richard, I've just had one of those weeks where I'm desperately trying to work out of the chaos of the hectic time, what's relevant and what's not. And I realized that my attempts to say that certain things are not relevant are actually attempts to deny part of my experience that I'd rather not deal with. So I think this notion of everything is relevant is something we can all reflect on and find really useful. Richard is an associate professor at the University of Hertfordshire in the UK and a passionate advocate for coaching as a catalyst for human and organizational growth. Drawing on years of experience developing leaders and coaching programs within higher education, he helps people unlock potential through purposeful conversation and reflective practice. Author of A Phenomenal Life, if you're watching, you can see the book on the shelf behind me, and creator of the Orbits of Consciousness framework, which we'll also get into a bit later on. You can find Richard at aphenomenallife.com, and that is in the show notes in case you don't know how to spell phenomenal, which took me a while to learn how to spell that myself. So, Richard, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Well, thank you so much, Catherine, for that wonderful introduction, and I'm very happy to be here.
Fantastic. So this notion of everything is relevant, when we met on the pre-call, you were telling me that this is something that kind of clicked in for you quite early on in your life. You sort of felt you kind of recognized that actually everything's relevant. Would you like to cast your mind back to your first memory of realizing actually everything is relevant?
Yeah, thank you. I think it all leads from, and it probably emerged from this recognition that consciousness, that what we experience, how we experience the world, is we think well, we assume we're passive observers of the world, which the world is out there and we're here, we're separate, and we can see we're part of it and we observe it. But actually, it's not like that at all. And the things that are that we see, they're relevant because they probably, they're formed within our own consciousness, so therefore they must be there for a reason. I guess that's where that was sort of coming from. And of course, we're very much meaning-making organisms, and we've got patterns which are ingrained within us, and sometimes we're not aware of those patterns. So where we experience something and we think, oh, possibly that's important, possibly it's not. But you may find out later on how important it really was. And the other aspect of that, I've had some fun exploring a chap called Grinberg and his work, and he very much made the point that the perception isn't passive. We do create the world around us, and he talked about all everything is connected to each other, and I love that sort of idea as a concept. And I suppose in sort of in physics, it's almost been suggested that way too. So going back to your actual question, Catherine, sorry, I've got a bit on a loop there already. Yeah, everything is relevant because if it's in front of us, in our minds, if it's in our consciousness, then it has meaning to us.
Excellent. And is this something you kind of only realized, yesterday or 10 years ago? Or did you ever notice instances of kind of realizing that earlier in your life when you were younger? Were there sort of moments of, hold on, I'm experiencing this, so therefore it must be relevant?
Yes. And there are a few examples that I did put into the book there of synchronicities which come about, and it's and I sort of have not dismissed the idea that we're living in quite a playful universe, which provides us with our experience almost mischievously sometimes. So yes, I did very much recognize that it was something growing up. It goes back probably to being 5-6 years old, and just being really curious about how we operate, how other people operate, why they do the things they do, why they get, why don't they see the patterns which they're clearly operating in? Why, there were so many questions. And I think through the years and through my experiences, I think I've found ways to sort of categorize them, to place them, to make sense of them, and to build up these theories, which sometimes they stay around, sometimes they get dismissed. But it's always led me towards this whole phenomenology, this with our construction of what we experience, and it's done from our own minds.
Yeah. So for those of us who haven't done a master's in psychology, would you like to just explain what phenomenology means, what that is?
So as I say, we're not just passive observers of the universe. We actually are the universe. We're part of it. We have this consciousness, and it creates everything that we experience, everything that we see. Our eyes aren't cameras looking out onto our eyes are only taking in the wavelengths of light, and they're constructing it in our mind, and we see it, even though things can be like ridiculously far away. We can look for a tree from or a wood from several miles away, and we see green instantly, but there is no green in the leaves. It's just the wavelengths of light coming from it. So again, we're constructing this in our mind, and the sounds that we hear are just movements in the air, which we create meaning from those. Music, song, bird song, these things. Taste. I'm drinking some lovely tea here, and the tea itself doesn't have taste. Taste is constructed again within consciousness from the molecules and the things in the tea. So everything is created, and so that's what phenomenology is. It's like how we experience the world, and this in itself is just like, okay, that's quite interesting. But then, of course, it then leads into that explains what helps to explain why people may experience the world differently, given exactly the same set of circumstances. They have different histories, they have different thought patterns. But yeah, phenomenology ultimately is how we can experience the world, and how much control do we have on that, Catherine? And that's something that's always fascinated me.
Yes, that fascinates me as well, because I think there are two questions I've heard spring up in relation to what you've just been talking about. The first one being, well, if my brain or my internal process is creating what green looks like to me, let's say, or a leaf, then there's the question of, okay, so what is the leaf really like? Okay, what's the truth of the leaf? Okay, if my experience and perception of the leaf is created inside me, what's the truth of the leaf? So the next question then is, well, where does that question come from, and does it matter? And then the other thing that also sprung up in response to what you were saying was that whole thing of, so if the way that I perceive the world is created inside me, can I alter what's happening inside me so that my perception of the world is either more accurate, and anyway, what is accurate, or more helpful? So those are some of the ideas I've heard discussed in these sorts of conversations before that came to my mind just then.
And I love that both of those questions. I think with the first one, what does a leaf really look like? Well, there's so much we don't see, of course. We see such narrow visible light, such a narrow band. We don't hear very much at all. We've got such poor senses. Animals sometimes have much better senses than we do, like a dog's smell and an owl's vision. So that's all great. But also, does it really matter? Not really. If you can ask a physicist, okay, look at that leaf, break it down, go deeper and deeper, look closer and closer. Ultimately, you just end up with little vibrating little, strings, don't you? Down at once you get through the quarks and the nuons and all those types of things. So, yeah, we know that matter itself doesn't really exist. But that's getting all metaphysical. I don't really want to go down there, or certainly. Physical, I should say, and I don't really want to go down that route, because does it matter? And the answer is no. What matters, and you're absolutely right, is if we create how we experience the world, how can we make it the best for us? How can we get the most from it? How can we make it the most fulfilling and joyful and wholesome, rather than do we want to pretend, forever be stuck in patterns that are unhelpful to us? Yeah.
Exactly. And thank you for the way you answered that, because I think it's useful, isn't it, to recognize the part of us that wants to somehow feel like it's in control, and it's Because you're kind of saying, yeah, that's interesting, but what's more interesting is your life working? Is it working for you? And I think I happen to agree with you. That's a fairly pragmatic point of view, isn't it? I happen to agree with you, but without denying the mystery as well. So we're not saying there's no mystery. We're saying how important is, where do we want to put our energy in terms of what we're focusing on, I suppose, in a way is what you're saying, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes. There is mystery. Life is mystery from the very beginning, isn't it? So let's just accept that we're living in a mystery, and the science doesn't have all the answers, and that's okay. But we have to have, we are lucky enough to have this human existence right now, and how can we get the most from that? And how can we literally enjoy our days, if you like? To get the most from that.
Yeah. And do you think, I mean, you were very curious at 5 or 6. I was as well. And you were exploring, you were thinking, well, why are people in those patterns? Why don't they seem to realize it? And you were really asking questions and exploring. And you're older than 5 now, so you've had a number of years on that path. Do you think, because some people listening to this and watching this will be thinking, oh my God, I'm 58 now. It's too late for me to start exploring this sort of thing. This guy's been at it since he was 5. What's your response to that in terms of when people start to explore some of these ideas from this kind of fresh perspective? How much does it matter when they start exploring it?
No, that's a really good question. I don't think it matters at all. I think the things that, or the way that we think now, at whatever age we're at, it's probably advanced and changed and evolved, and as we go through our lives. I think, a 5-year-old may have a couple of intuitions, but they're not going to be ready formed. They're not going to make a great deal of sense, but they could just lead to curiosities, and then, like the curiosities, can lead to further observations. And I think it's never. What's that Led Zeppelin line? There's 2 paths you can go by, but there's still time to change the road you're on. It's never too late to see the world differently, if you like, because you still will reap all the advantages. So yeah, and I think I do talk a little about time in my book, and I think every day when we wake up is a new day, and no matter what age we're at, we have the opportunity that day to get the most from that day, and to make it a day that we were happy with. And I'm not thinking about keeping diaries and all this sort of thing, but if we're stuck in the patterns which restrict how much we benefit from life, the day can pass without us even realizing it. But if we're a little bit more aware, and I think it always comes back to this awareness, the whole of phenomenology is awareness of how we're experiencing the world. So yes. Has that answered your question, Catherine? I kind of got lost in my own answer there.
Well, this does happen in these conversations, and quite often my question is less interesting than the answer. So I don't mind if people actually answer my questions. It's like, I'm sorry, that wasn't the exact answer to the question. Nobody cares. It's about, like, what is the leaf? No one cares what the leaf really is. In these conversations, I think what's interesting is to let it run, which I think is what we're doing. And I'm having an experience in this conversation, and you're having an experience in this conversation, and that's the thing we're both seeking to tap into, isn't it? The being in this experience together as we're doing the conversation.
Yes, it is. You're absolutely right. And it doesn't matter which point in anyone's life they start thinking about these things, they could still be just as interesting and relevant at that point. Yes.
Yeah. And so your wonderful book, which, by the way, I do recommend people get, it's very good. I was just saying to you before that if someone just looks at the cover and it says A Phenomenal Life, they might think, oh, he means life is just lovely all the time. But of course, that's not what you're saying. Would you like to explain a bit more? But I think it's a very clever title, actually. Would you like to explain a bit more what you're saying in that title and why it takes a book to say it? Because actually, we were saying before, you can't do it with a bumper sticker.
Yes, you can't do it with a bumper sticker. Yes, a phenomenal life. And I think it's an exploration, probably of the way my thought process operated from the very beginning, that who are you? The first chapter is who are you? And that's the question which I toyed with as a young boy, and it just never made any sense. And it's a bit like one of those Korean koans, which if you keep asking the same question, keep thinking about it, sometimes an answer emerges. And but the phenomenology of living was, again, coming back to that, the consciousness and how everything that we experience is created by us. That I think that's what's emerged after all these decades of my work and my working with people and my observations and my coaching. Coaching, when I first came onto it, I was just so absolutely thrilled that you suddenly got this opportunity to get inside someone's mind and to roam about and explore and see how they think. And they'll actually, this is the whole point of it. And you get free access. And so all these patterns then suddenly begin revealing. And of course, understanding other people means we understand ourselves better, because we're very relational beings. So yes, so a phenomenal life. It's about the experiences that we have, the experience of being human, and that's the phenomenology of that. And there are choices within that life. There are choices. If we are aware that sometimes we have the opportunity to experience the world slightly differently, the world itself doesn't change, but how we experience the world changes greatly for us.
And do you think that when our experience of the world changes, do you think that the world actually doesn't change, or that it actually sometimes does change as a result of that?
Oh, that's such a good question. But I'd also say it's not a very useful question, because of course the world changes. When we're feeling like incredibly anxious, things make us fearful. Things suddenly look dangerous, and the world is a dangerous world. Um, is there a world that exists without us? Oh, my answer to that is no. I mean, when we go unconscious, if you go and have an operation and you slip into unconsciousness under anesthetic, the world ceases to exist for you. Yours is gone. I mean, other people may still have a world that they're inhabiting, but ours is gone. And when we come round again, it's recreated again. So yes, the world is our world. So that's why it's not a very useful question. Of course, the world changes when we change our own experience, because it changes for us. Yeah.
Beautiful. So is there, in the working with these notions over these years, have you noticed a change in yourself in relationship to the nature of the questions that you ask?
Have I noticed change in myself in the questions I ask? I think, yes, absolutely do. I think I find myself gazing at trees a lot more than I used to do, admiring the moon, things like this, just taking in those experiences, and just I think being a lot more. I mean, the curiosity has never died, Catherine, and I'm still absolutely curious about people, and always will be. And I think that's just been a passion of mine, and I'm really grateful to have had that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the thoughts evolve, thoughts change, as I say, and I love reading. I love reading about other people's theories, and I love seeing how they would fit in with my own. And I love hearing about, well, everything really. It's just, yeah, fascination with life. Yeah, that's what it is.
Well, that's lovely to hear, because as well, some of your thinking is very sophisticated in terms of what you've examined and been curious about and written about in the book. And I just wanted to kind of illustrate for listeners that it hasn't taken you into a cognitive cage. That's you've more gone into a place of a greater felt connection with life, rather than greater being trapped in the head, as you just illustrated there. And I think that's very, very important, because I think a lot of people these days are frightened of, oh no, I can't really use my mind critically to examine these things, because then I'll get stuck in my head.
Yes, completely. And I think I always wanted to approach it as well. I have a background in science, and I do. There's a whole chapter devoted to the brain and the brain processes, which try to explain possibly the way that our thinking does work. it's an incredible, it's the most evolved organ that we know in the whole universe. It's just an incredible, like, 3 pound like thing, and the things that it can do. And so I really needed it to be the book and some of the theories to be scientifically credible, at the same time as this absolute awareness that, everything that is created, as I keep going back to, created in consciousness. So therefore, consciousness must be behind all of that as well. So I'm very much straddling two different realms there, science and non-science, but I think that's what life is, and we actually have to do that. We have no choice on that.
I want
And we all have our own intuitions, we all have our own experiences, and we all have things that are meaningful to us. And yeah, it's the what do we do with that meaning? That's always been the passion. Mm.
beautiful. I love it. Would you like to have a go at explaining what the orbits of consciousness are? I mean, again, you've written a whole book which showcases those within it. But would you like to give the listeners a bit of an idea of what that is about?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you. It's come from this idea that, and it was through the observation of others and from myself, that, and I often use this wonderful example: if you were to put red tinted glasses on, and then you walk around, everything you see is going to be tinted red. And so, much like that, whichever orbit we're in, and which really means how close we're, however, which way we're thinking, how much freedom, intellectual freedom do we have, how much connected are we to ourselves or the world around us. And what that means is that's how we'll see the world. And we all cycle through this. I think the human experience, we all know all the emotions. We've all suffered grief, we've all suffered anger, we've all suffered jealousy, we've all suffered bliss, and wonderful states of flow and compassion and love and fear. And none of those are new to us, and it's impossible to live a human life without experiencing all of those. But some of those bring us down into, well, I don't want to use the word bring us down. Some of us move us into patterns, I suppose, which can then restrict how much we take in of other things, how much meaning how much connections we can make in our brain. Our brain is, it's trying to serve us. It's trying to provide us with the best experience of keeping alive. Thank you very much to the brains. And it does a pretty good job. But in the modern world, do we really want to call on these ancient, fight or flight responses multiple times a day because of the news reports we read, or the petty arguments we've had with someone in a queue in the supermarket, or all these things? And these things drag us back in. They make us feel as if we are separate again. They make us feel as if we are a self which needs to be protected. They put us into patterns of this protection. Whereas at other times, when we are feeling beautifully expansive and connected and calm and fully aware, we can just make so many better thoughts, ideas, connections within our brain. And the world is exactly the same from the outside, but from within, we've got this just a better place to live, a better way to live. And I think the awareness, the orbits of consciousness was all about the different, and I list a few of them. How, as you move a word further away from the ego and further, you can go up these and experience better things, and how things like judgment can keep us trapped in, because judgment is always creating separation between us and something else, and it doesn't matter if it's judgment of a person or a thing or an experience or whatever it is, it's creating that separation. So when we realize that, a almost blissful existence is just a fraction of a millimeter away. In fact, there is no distance. It is there if we want to access it. We just need to change some of the ways we have to be aware of how we experience in the world. And if we can take some steps just to change behaviors, to change the way we think, then it's available to us.
Thank you. And I think you were saying something about that the orbits of consciousness are that we sort of cycle through them over and over again. And I think that's interesting, because sometimes I think we think, oh, there's some sort of hierarchy of consciousness that we're supposed to aspire to. Would you like to say a bit more about that?
Well, it'd be wonderful, wouldn't it, if we could all live like the Dalai Lama and and sit on a rug and just be ultimately happy all day long every day. But yeah, it's not possible for us. We all have histories, we all have relationships, we all have duties. Real life is going to seriously get in the way of us very quickly. Um, However, we can still access moments of, and we people do this themselves. They go for walks, go for a walk in nature. They'll go on holiday. They'll look at things of beauty, do art, dance, sew, whatever they want to do. Form friendships and get meaning from those. So we always looking for this connection anyway, because it's a natural instinct to do that. But of course, because of our human existence, we still get trapped in the other things, and we've got probably unconscious is probably holding things that happened to us years ago that we haven't properly resolved, and those may come and bump into us from time to time. And yeah, it would be wonderful if we could just control it completely the whole time, but that's not possible. So yes, we know we're going to experience all the emotions again, but I think rather than experiencing them, and I think this is something that's really fundamental to the point of the book, rather than just experience them, Catherine, and going, oh, I'm really angry today, and this is because of him and her and this and that, just being noticing the anger arising and go, oh, okay, I wonder why I'm getting angry here. I wonder if it's going to be important to me, and what's it going to change, and why am I angry, and what does it mean about me? And that's that curiosity with ourselves, because to separate ourselves from that anger, we're not angry, we're just feeling anger. Why are we feeling anger? Or why are we feeling bliss? Or why are we feeling whatever it is we're feeling? And just to be aware of that, and it separates us from that. And I think that gives us a lot of power over how we see the world. And it certainly stops us reacting and starts helping us to respond to the world around us.
Yes, that sounds like you're advocating not resisting what we're feeling.
No, don't resist it. No, just watch it. Be interested in it, curious in it, really interested in it. Yeah. Yes.
I think that's right. In fact, I just remembered a teacher of mine ran a workshop called about authenticity. This was in the 80s or 90s, when it was all about authentic. You've got to be authentic at all times. And they spent this weekend where everyone was being authentic about sharing their experience the entire time, etc. And it took like half an hour to offer someone a cup of tea because everyone was sharing every single feeling. By the end of it, everyone was completely exhausted. But it was a useful experiment nevertheless.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
And nobody died. So, but I think that's a great thing, about not resisting our experience, because it's in our body. It's a bit like trying to resist the heart pumping, or the liver doing whatever the liver does. The feeling's present, so we may as well observe it.
We absolutely may as well observe it. And by observing it, by the way, we take away its power as well. If we feel slight irritation arising because of something that's happening, it just tells us something about ourselves, which could be really, really useful and important. The world is going to do what it does, right? There's only so much we can control, but we certainly should take responsibility for how we react to the world around us. And I think that's what it gives us. It gives us tremendous autonomy and power.
Yeah.
I believe, personal power.
Beautiful. So people can get your book, obviously, A Phenomenal Life. And would you like to tell us a little bit about how you work with people, or if someone is drawn to you from this conversation today, which I'm guessing people will be? Some of them will think, well, I'll get the book. And some will think, well, okay, what happens if I actually contact Richard? What happens next? How might we work?
Yeah, and I'm really interested in hearing from people all times and their experiences. I mean, I do. Yeah, I mean, the coaching that I do, that's fine. There's just sharing of experiences and theories. I love to do that as well. And even feedback on how people, take the work, and how they think about it. I mean, there's so much that we don't know. Like, as we go back to what we said at the beginning, life is such a mystery, and it's a wonderful mystery that should be explored. So yeah, I think with a phenomenal life, it was something that had to come out. I always felt it was there. and I knew the title, and then I thought, okay, now I know the title. Well, and it was really, I think some people, they have trains of thought that they don't really have language for, if you see what I mean. And it's that personal suffering which people, and I know everyone, myself included, have experienced these things, and we don't really know how to approach those and how to work with those. And A Phenomenal Life was really written to try and to show people that they're not alone. Other people have this too. Um, and when I've given talks about it, and some readers have come back to me, and they've said some beautiful things about how they have felt less alone. It's have helped them with one thing that they were dealing with and never shared with anyone, something along those lines. So yeah, if people enjoy the book and get something from it, I'm always really delighted to connect with those people and to see how things have changed. Yeah.
Beautiful. That's good. Great to hear. Because often once people have written a book and they've got a practice, they don't really want people to contact them just for a chat, but I think and of course you would say that because you are constantly researching and learning and curious as you go, aren't you? And fascinated. So that feeds into everything you're doing, I can imagine.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely does. I mean, there's yeah, there's so much more to learn and to know and to hear about, isn't there? And yeah, but listening to your episodes, Catherine, as well. I mean, it's a wonderful how you go on those journeys, and the people come on and say such interesting things. I always love to hear what's the interesting thing this person is going to tell me today.
Well, I've actually got a secret in regard to my guest episodes, which is I only ever have people on who I think are interesting.
Mm.
And I tell people this and they go, why didn't I obviously know that? But actually, a bit like you were saying about when you've got access to people, I actually think everybody is interesting.
Yeah.
It's just a question of, are they at a point in their life where they're ready to share that with other people, or not? Because you can get fascinating people who just won't share.
Yes.
Don't want to share. And fine, there's no obligation. But I do very much appreciate people sharing, as you've been doing today, because there's something very interesting about how other people explore things and put things together, because that then offers a new idea on options of how I might do that. And for listeners as well, it's other options, because I imagine most people listening to this are curious in some way, or they wouldn't be listening to this sort of show.
Yeah.
So what your path with your curiosity is obviously unique to you, but it holds inspiration within it for other people who may want to deepen their path of curiosity as well.
Yeah, that you've put that really nicely there. Yes, it's about having other options, that are available to us, rather than being very constricted and with no choice whatsoever. We know we're going to behave like this. Yeah, multiplying our options until we can have any number of potential, responses.
Exactly. So some of the people who listen to the show are, in fact, maybe all of them, who knows, are also people who are out there working to help other people, working to lead people, help people find clarity, help people be happy, and so on and so forth. On your path, you must have learned a lot about how you do that, and there may be learnings that you've gained that perhaps you could offer to some of those people. So is there something you'd like to say to those sorts of people who may be listening to us right now?
Thank you. What a wonderful opportunity. I think the most important thing to remember is that no one is alone. We are all suffering the same human, the same human experience, the type of lives. There's very little between the lot of us. We all, we all do the same things. I think, and it probably came through in the book there. Certainly, you mentioned the word happiness, and I always go back to Thich Nhat Hanh and his quote that there is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path that you choose. And that's probably informed the direction of a phenomenal life, that if happiness is important to us, it is the path that we can walk. And whatever we experience along that way, we are not alone. Other people have done that too.
Lovely. Thank you. So the people who are helping others are not alone. The people who need help are not alone. The people who have no idea what's going on are not alone. The people who are very clear are not alone.
Yes. We're all in this together, Catherine.
All in this together. So, Richard, honestly, I could talk to you for hours. It's very fascinating listening to you. And I actually find this whole approach of yours very uplifting. I feel like it creates possibility, and space for more, and space for inner connection and outer connection, as well as kind of, I think something you say in the book about the inner, within, between, and above, or what was the other word?
Without,
Within, between, and without.
Mm.
I'm actually going to ask you to say something about that, because that was one of the things that struck me most in the book.
Yeah, I think that emerged from, I used to see the like two great oceans, and I kind of like that metaphor. And you've got the outer ocean, the one that we the universe that we live in, the world, and all the dangers and all the threats and the promises and the attractions of these things. But then we've got our inner world as well, and that can either be in turmoil, or it can be, lovely, calm, you know, lovely, calm place. And the things that happen outside can influence our inner ocean and make that become more turbulent, or the other way around. It can make it. So you've got this inner realm, which is unique to us, and it's only ours. It's very hard. No one else can see it from the outside. They can see our behavior, which may be a reflection of what we're suffering inside, or experiencing inside, but it is ours. The outer world, I'm going to go back to the fact that it's been created in our minds anyway. So actually, they're probably the same. But the interaction between the two is where we make those choices. So that's the point where we're going to meet relationally other people, the world around us, how we experience life. And it's that boundary between the inner world, which we do have more control over than we think. And yeah, it has depths. Everyone has depths. We probably all have work we could do on ourselves just to help ourselves calm that inner world a little bit more. But the outer world, how much choice do we have over that? Well, I think that actually by controlling the inner world, we can control the outer world. That's my intuition on this.
Beautiful, thank you. So we've actually talked about a lot today, and it's been fascinating. Has there been for you a favorite part of our conversation today, Richard?
Oh, I love the humor that you bring to these conversations, and the curiosity, Catherine. The favorite part, yeah, I think it's just an exploration of the journey. It's not something that I've thought back and reflected on for a while, about how things have changed, and how well, where might they be going as well. So yeah, that's really been fascinating for me. It's something I'll be reflecting on afterwards, Catherine. Thank you so much.
Beautiful, thank you. I must say, I also appreciate it when I have a conversation that helps me to revalue my own path, because it's easy to sort of go, oh well, I'm just here, I kind of blundered my way through that, survived so far, but actually that's never the full story, is it? So thank you so much, Richard. It's been fantastic. And let's just remind people where to find you, which is aphenomenallife.co.uk, which is in the show notes. Do go and check out Richard's book, A Phenomenal Life. It really is a good read. It's very uplifting, as well as, you go deep and you elevate as well. I mean, it's just a beautiful combination of, well, as you say, it's not possible to be human and not have all of the experiences of joy, loss, happiness, grief, all of these experiences. And what a great reminder of that for us. So, Richard, thank you so much again for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Catherine. It's been really fun.
Brilliant. Oh, and I'll just do a little advert to the listeners, which is, do go to truthandtranscendence.com and check out my other episodes. If you've enjoyed this conversation and some of the other conversations, you may, if you're looking for a coach, fancy having a chat with me. And there's a link in the show notes for a little free conversation to see if we might be a good fit. So thanks again, Richard. Have a fantastic day.
Thank you. You too.